What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here with some more Madden 18 news. Now, for today's video, I want to really break down and go in depth with the new story mode Longshot. Now, I did make a video on this a while back saying that, I feel that EA was kind of wrong for the way they did Longshot because you only get to play up till draft night and you don't get to play into the NFL. I've since read more about it. They have a nice interview on this website that one of the developers did. I'll link that below. But he really goes in depth with the story mode, and it's actually got me excited for it now. I still really wish they would have let the story continue to the NFL, but it kind of makes sense after reading through it, and it seems like there's actually a lot of involvement in the story. Like, there's a lot of different things you can do to change the outcome of the story. Initially, it didn't really sound so much like that. It sounded like it was really too predetermined, but it's actually not that way. So I'm going to actually break it down because I know a lot of people are still confused about it. A lot of people still don't know that you can't even play in the NFL through the story. So I'm going to break it down. It's some really good stuff here. So in the interviewer asks, Longshot, your story mode, is it going to be a telltale game, or is it going to be more like how Fight Night went in and out of cutscenes and then action and then cutscene and then action, if you remember the old Fight Night stories, which were pretty good. And he said it's more like Fight Night, but Telltale is definitely a good reference as well. I'd say you probably hit the nail on the head with the two games that were most similar to Telltale-style games and Fight Night. And us being a sports title, obviously, there's some relevance to FIFA's The Journey, which was pretty much like their version of Longshot. There's similarities there, but I'd say for sports, we're pretty unique, we're pretty different. We approached it as the idea of a movie-quality experience that you can ultimately lead and play through for the one guy's journey to the NFL. We did that through branching dialogue that has a bit of urgency and a bit of putting the tough decisions to make on the player. Whatever that dialogue decisions that you're going to choose, you make might impact your best friend Colt, who's a part of the story, or you might impact something with your coach or something downstream in the story. So there's going to be plenty of things in the story where you have to choose, A, B, or C, and you have a friend in the story, Colt, who is a wide receiver. Some of your decisions might affect him, he's your childhood friend that you're coming up with and trying to get in the NFL with. Some of your decisions could affect your coach, could affect if you even get drafted or not. So they go on down here to say, as you're playing through this kind of movie-quality experience, you're going to get dropped into traditional Madden experiences, 11 versus 11 football and some of the high school background of Devin Wade, but also some unique things that we haven't had in Madden in some time or ever. You're going to play some 7-on-7 football. You're going to play some kind of mini passing games where you're targeting areas on the field and throwing the ball at targets and things of that nature. You're going to call plays just like an NFL quarterback. It says, so we wanted it to be varied and different. I think there's one thing we learned from our brothers on FIFA and our competitors in 2K and other titles that have had career mode kind of story is they can get grindy or too consistent. You see a scene, you play a traditional game. You see a scene, so on and so forth. So what they wanted to do was give you a little more variation as playing through the story to hopefully keep you engaged and get you all the way through to the end of the journey. So they're trying to make it a little bit more interactive to keep you interested. If you play 2K's My Career, or like he said, of some other games, maybe even in FIFA or some other story modes in games, sometimes they get a little repetitive. It's just a cutscene and then you go play your game, and then it's a cutscene and you go play your game, and it's just kind of the same back and forth. So I guess they're trying to make it a little more interactive to keep you engaged, which is awesome. Then the interviewer asks, can you confirm that there are multiple endings? And the developer says, there are multiple outcomes here. We said it. It's an origin story of Devin Wade, and the ultimate goal is you're playing up until draft day. The way that the draft plays out can end in multiple ways. Devin can get drafted. He may not get drafted. His best friend is trying to get drafted, so he may get drafted instead. There are multiple ways for the story to play out. Then it says, when all is said and done, and I know Wade is going to be a MUT player, will he make an appearance in franchise mode as a character you can draft? Now this is interesting here because I did not know this, and I don't think a lot of people do. The developer said, Devin Wade won't be a character you can draft, but there is a way to play him in franchise. And he said that this information wasn't really out there previous to this. He said, if you want to continue that journey and you want to play with him, you can go into franchise. You create a player and then select an undrafted or a late round quarterback that is a mobile quarterback. The default player we set up for that scenario is in fact Devin Wade. So you get his name, his background, you get his look, it's him, and then you can actually go into any team you want. So, read through this again. It sounds kind of confusing, but I'm sure people that play franchise pretty heavily understood what that meant. If you go into franchise and you actually create a player, and then you select an undrafted or a late round quarterback that is also a mobile quarterback, the default player they set up is going to be Devin Wade. So you can decide what team you go to, or you could, understand that you got drafted by and you go to another team, yada, yada, yada. He said, it's kind of cool. I'm a big Bucs fan, and I've been taking Devin Wade onto the Bucs. I love Jameis Winston, but I also like taking Devin Wade into the NFL and seeing where I can take him. So after you play the story, you franchise guys can actually create him and take him into the NFL. So it's not actually part of the story, but it's like you kind of can just finish the story yourself. And then the interviewer says, I was initially a little disappointed to hear that Longshot kind of ended at the draft, so hearing this, that you can bring Wade into the franchise and play is great. And then the developer says, the thing that's going to come later that isn't there right now is you don't hear a ton of richness around the community, in the commentary and talking about his backstory. That will come. It won't be there at launch, but I have found it's fairly rewarding to play as Devin Wade in franchise and see him on the field. You've got the whole story you built through the Longshot campaign mode, and then just continuing the franchise. It feels rewarding to me. And he says, by the way, you can also continue Colt's journey. If you go as a late round or undrafted speed wide receiver, the default guy for that character is also Colt. So you can take him into the NFL as well. And then down here, they talk about the colleges in Longshot. He says, is Longshot a way to appease college football fans while there's no proper NCAA game out? And the developer says, I think the taste of college football is going to make some happy, but I do want to be clear that the only two teams that are in this mode are Oregon and Texas. And it's kind of more about you understanding the journey of Devin Wade and what his college career meant to him on that journey. He was a Texas 5-star high school football recruit in the game mode, and he goes to the University of Texas. They play against Oregon, so a little taste of college football, not exactly what we want, but, it's good to have some kind of college football back, I guess, on a video game. And then he says, are there any influences to Longshot's story that fans might find surprising? And he says, I don't know that there are any influences that people will find surprising. This isn't really anything too important. This is kind of just about the guy who made the mode, how he was a fan of, sports documentaries and stuff like that. Nothing really important there. So that's basically it. You're going to play high school. There's going to be a lot of mini games actually that people don't know. So you're going to have, it's kind of going to be like those back on PS2 games where you had those mini games. I don't know if they were called mini games. They might have been called something else, but you're going to have a taste of that where you're trying to beat these mini games to earn this, that, and the third. You play high school. You're going to play some 7-on-7. You're going to go through trials and tribulations with your friends, with your family. Going to play some college. Going to be working out, trying to get into the NFL draft. You might get drafted. You might not get drafted. A lot of different ways for it to end. So I think it's going to be cool. Like I said, I wish they would let you actually play through the NFL in the story. But, if you could take them into franchise mode, that's cool. At least there's, some kind of consolation there. But I'm excited to try it out. I still think it could have been done better, of course. But I didn't know that it went as deep as it did. I didn't know that you actually had to make a bunch of different decisions that could change the outcome of the story. I thought it was just one predetermined story you played through. So that's cool. There's a little bit of freedom there. So I'm definitely going to play it. I think a lot of people will. A lot of people are saying, I don't want this mode. But I think at the end of the day, it's a new mode. A lot of people are going to try it out. And if it's as good as they say it is, I think it'll be worth it. So let me know what you think. Did this change your mind on Longshot at all? Do you still think it was a waste of time and resources? What do you think about it? Let me know. Drop a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.